Hey everyone, welcome to Strange Stories, where we explore near-death experiences and supernatural stories from people who've had a glimpse of the other side. If you enjoy our content, please consider liking the video and subscribing to our channel. Without further ado, let's get to the story of the day. Because I'd been suffering physically and emotionally for the majority of my life, I made a deal with God to have a major heart attack. The agony worsened after I was hit by a hit-and-run taxi while riding my bike in September 2003, resulting in 9 years of severe surgeries and illnesses. I knew I was going to die. I was suffering significant seizures at the start of the third month of weaning myself off of roughly 15 pharmaceutical medicines. I arrived at the hospital on March 6th and experienced severe seizures after being removed from the feeding tube on March 7th. My profound NDE occurred around 2 a.m. on the evening of March 8th and early morning of March 9th, 2012. I remember the seizure approaching, and I prepared by wrapping my wrists and ankles in blankets so my body wouldn't swing around and scare people. It was all right for me to die. I was sick of being sick, and I knew I was dying. The seizure started as soon as I finished wrapping my ankles and stepped outside. I'm in a short emptiness, filled with what appears to be silver gray, very light gray. Then I notice I'm standing on something other than earth. I'm aware that I've crossed over to the other side. The diamond-like ground enchants me with what appears to be quartz crystal, white marble, and even something that appears to be see-through glass. The majority of the ground was covered in projecting diamonds that stood tall, smooth, and glistened so brightly that I couldn't take my gaze away from it. I looked up to see what else was there, being the naturally inquisitive person that I am. A large crystal blue sky, a lovely waterfall with some brilliant green grass around its margins greeted me to my left. I saw a massive stone gate leading to what I assumed was Heaven's Gate. When I looked at how far the gate reached, it seemed to merge into eternity. Then I heard a voice saying something to me. It was the sound of both an authoritative boom and tender, loving warmth. "You are here because you have visited me frequently," it said. I knew right away that all of my prayers had been answered. I prayed regularly as a child, adolescent, and teen, suffering from terrible physical and emotional abuse, as well as melancholy. I was in heaven, in a garden at the foot of the entry gate. My body was running a high temperature on this particular day, and I had been iced multiple times in the hospital to bring it down. I saw the gate to heaven and the narrow golden carved path that led to it in my NDE. I noticed the distinct ground beneath the path that wasn't the enormous diamond-like ground I was standing on. An angel lifted me up by the back of my body and carried me to the waterfall. I was at the base of the waterfall. My left little finger made the most minuscule contacts with the water that wasn't really water. It appeared to be gel, with diamond-like colors emitted from it. My fever left my body almost instantly. This angel then scooped me up and returned me to where I was standing. To my right, I noticed my maternal grandmother. She was there with 3 other relatives I recognized. My paternal grandmother, and 3 relatives on my father's side, who I recognized are on my left. My father appeared to want my attention and shifted from the maternal to the paternal side. Nobody was smiling, and I was afraid that God would punish me severely. I'll take it. I'm in the garden, and I'll accept any judgment and accept all of my sins as a choice I made when I might have done better. Perhaps God will comprehend what I went through while I was living. After greeting my relatives, and realizing I was about to be judged, I stood straight and tall like a soldier. A massive orb of the glistening eye of God was hovering in front of me. It was enormous and glistened with diamond and dazzling white light. "I am prepared," I declared. "I know I said some hurtful things. You may now pass judgment on me." "Be still," said the massive orb of light, the gleaming eye of God. It then instructed me to turn my head to the right. In a nanosecond, my eyes were drawn to the right. I observed blue human-like beings with golden auras emanating from their heads, shoulders, and bodies. I immediately assumed that we had all died at the same time and that I was keeping people waiting in line to be judged. After judgment, I would ultimately enter the gate, and I was eager to do so. "I'm holding up a cue," I muttered, turning my head to the glisten of the eye. The glisten then showered me with an unfathomable amount of its white diamond-like light. The light was nothing more than the purple love. "Be still. You are mine," it said again. It then instructed me to turn to the left. I then instantly turned to the left. In lovely blue, I saw the same human-like beings. There were hundreds upon hundreds of them. "I'm holding up a cue," I whispered again to the glistening eye of God. "Be still," God's glistening eye commanded again. It poured me with even more light, and it was all love, pure, pure love. My physique was erect, tall, and free of sickness, unlike on earth. The orb prompted me to look to my right once more. I'm glancing to my right once more when I hear it say, "Look closer." For the first time, I realized that these were people I knew or had met. Then I was warned that I would run into some of these people in the front rows. I noticed that they were all formed of a tough membrane that encased their entire bodies. The membrane was glowing yellow, and the occupants were all water, like a bathtub full of clean water. I acknowledged with a small wave that they were water beings, and replied in telepathy that I now knew who these water entities were. The orb seemed delighted, so I repeated again, "You can judge me now. Perhaps you didn't like it when I stated I did awful things. I'll adjust my phrase to, I did the wrong things." God's sparkling eye then showered me with more healing light, uttered more things to me, and reiterated, "Be still." I couldn't figure out why I wasn't being judged. I was desperate to get through the gate ahead of me. I could hear what was going on behind the massive gate of heaven. God's glistening eye then showed me for a few moments what was beyond the doorway of heaven. They were all wonderful spirits, talking about us on earth and how they could help us. The first thing I saw was an oval light table. Because I heard comments like, "She and he require," and "We have this in place for her and him," I assumed these people were discussing persons. The next table was larger, and those souls spoke in such a way that I assumed they were assisting groups. The next table of light had more souls gathered around it, and they likewise discussed groups, and I could sense the severity at that table. All I wanted was to start walking into heaven and doing whatever work was waiting for me. "I'm so worthless, and even if you let me in heaven, I'll sweep the floors forever and ever," I had always told God. My focus was drawn back to where I was standing on the diamond-like ground. Despite everything I've seen, I still tell the glistening eye of God, "I'm taking up time, and some want to communicate with you." Some of the blue humans in the right front row had told me that they couldn't understand what the enormous sphere of light was saying. When I looked to my right and left, I noticed my family smiling slightly. I assumed that I would now be admitted. At the moment, I am filled with hope that the verdict will be favorable. When I started traveling down that little golden path toward the gate to heaven, I could hear my relatives telling me that I was all right through telepathy and eye contact. The massive white orb of the glistening eye of God suddenly dims, and a massive golden yellow sphere emerges from its right. I immediately recognize it as Jesus' light. I'm showered in this golden yellow light, and I'm being healed, and healed some more. I'm unable to speak. It says, "I love you." Its rays caressed my skin, and I imagined myself being propelled up those rays. They touched me, and the golden yellow sphere reverted to the first gigantic white orb, God's glistening eye. Then a stone ledge appeared from the sky, and I was shown a moving art drawing of my life. Then there was more. I was going over my life. The drawings in which I was moving demonstrated that I was kind to people at various stages of my life. The earliest moving drawing was of me when I was approximately 2 years old, chasing a butterfly that was tormenting me. I was laughing and having a good time with this butterfly. I was in a park, wearing a pinafore-edged dress and running around like a small kid. I look at my maternal and paternal grandmothers. They're smiling a little more now, and I'm feeling as prepared as I can be. I felt both of my grandparents lift their arms and gently guide me down the golden road. Everything fades into a void-like second, save for a silver-gray essence of some kind. I looked up and saw God's beautiful white gleaming eye once more. I watched it slowly fly out into space, like a balloon. It tells me one last thing, which I hear audibly, like a normal person saying, "Keep doing what you've been doing." I was convinced. It indicated I'd done an excellent job of being a passed-over soul. It vanishes as I pursue all of its light. I see it as it fully disappears, and I'm staring at the ceiling of my hospital room. I immediately sensed two diametrically opposed human emotions. They were diametrically opposing, which I had never experienced or had forgotten if I had. These were feelings of profound anguish that I'd been admitted into heaven's garden and was in joy. It was a new kind of joy that I'd never felt before in my life. I realized I had just witnessed something spectacular and extraordinary. The all that is love, created and loved us. I spent the next few weeks informing everyone I knew what had transpired. I haven't stopped talking about my near-death experience. It is my happiness, my new existence. It's my gift, and it's why I want to live. Simply to tell the tale of how God, the all that is love, created and loved us.